All right, so my name is Doug Waller. I am the Director of Shopper Insights on the Coke team at Walmart, and welcome to our presentation. This is Walmart and Coca-Cola joined forces with Tableau as the unifying factor. Again, my name is Doug, and I lead our Shopper Insights on our Walmart sales team in Bentonville, Arkansas. So yes, you are right. Coke is headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. It is ironically where I grew up. I haven't lived there since I was a kid, even though I work for Coke. But every major CPG company that sells anything in Walmart has an office in Northwest Arkansas, somewhere between Fayetteville and Bentonville. And our office is in Rogers, Arkansas, just south of Bentonville, about 50 folks. And I am the sole Shopper Insights guy, calling on both Walmart and Sam's in Northwest Arkansas, managing the Walmart and Sam's account. So that's who I am. My colleague from Walmart, Chance McCullough, who's in business analytics, was supposed to be here today. We had actually planned this presentation together starting 6 months ago. And about 2 weeks ago or so, he had to back out due to a number of reasons. So I'm going to be presenting the presentation, basically the same material, but from kind of my perspective and my thought process. I'll do the best to kind of represent what he was going to share, the content in a very fair and unbiased way, and kind of share his thought process, what he was going to. But this presentation shifted from Coca-Cola and Walmart : to Coca-Cola : in the past few weeks. So I apologize for that, but basically you're going to get the exact same content. It'll just be, you're stuck with hearing me for 45 minutes instead of two of us for 45 minutes. So hopefully that works for you guys. Sound good? All right, let's get rolling here. So again, that's me. I work for Coke. I've been working for Coke for about 2.5 years. I've been in the CPG, consumer products good industry, about 10 years, doing consumer and shopper insights, the majority of the time, mainly shopper insights. I've pretty much called and visited every retailer in North America and Canada, both in my working for Coca-Cola with Walmart and Sam's, and also previously worked for Procter & Gamble for 7 years, calling on a bunch of North America retailers, primarily grocery retailers during that time. Prior to my time in the CPG industry, I spent 6 years in the Navy. I did 2 deployments to the Arabian Gulf in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, Enduring Freedom. Any other veterans in the room? Nobody. No other veterans in the room? All right. Thought it was 1%. I guess it's more than 1% today. All right. Just me. All right. Great. So I basically, I leverage Tableau and our business intelligence platform on our Walmart sales team for Coca-Cola. So a fun fact about my use of Tableau, I started using Tableau a little over a year ago. Did the basic and intermediate training with Interworks with Tableau, which, by the way, I highly encourage it. It was like 3 days of training, fantastic, and I left that training really feeling dangerous. I have a few kids and my wife, and she happened to be out of town with the kids for a weekend, going to visit her parents in Ohio, and I couldn't go for some reason. I forget what it was, so I had the weekend by myself at home. So being the nerd that I am, freshly trained in Tableau, I took my entire budget and investment portfolio and put it all into Tableau in one weekend and created a personal financial dashboard for myself. I'm a little bit of a nerd. I took the education requirement for Certified Financial Planner just for fun because I like to learn that stuff and I like education and I like learning. And so that's kind of my fun fact about Tableau. Now when I do our budget reviews and our weekly or monthly budget and I review my investment portfolio, I don't go to my broker's website. I go to my own Tableau dashboard and share that with my wife, and I geek out on doing interactive dynamic tree maps, and she goes along with it for about 10 minutes, and then she's like, I'm done. So that's my fun fact. In addition to personal finance, I'm also passionate about travel. I love credit cards that earn loyalty points. If anyone wants to talk Delta SkyMiles medallion status, I can talk to you for an hour about that. I love that stuff. And I'm passionate about adoption. So if I appear jet lagged and a little bit like crazy up here, this was me on Thursday. So on Thursday last week, I returned from Uganda with my 2 children. See if this laser works. Oh, I get that. It's 2-year-old Rose and 4-year-old Joseph. This was my 5th trip to Uganda, and fortunately, my final one, at least in the near future, bringing these 2 kids home after a pretty long and rigorous battle with U.S. immigration. So they're getting settled in with their 2 brothers. Teddy's in my wife's arms in the top left. He's also 4. And Henry's 6, staying next to Joseph on the bottom left in the white shirts. And that's our crew at the Northwest Arkansas Regional Airport welcoming us. We had about 50 to 75 folks there from my church and Coke. They're welcoming us just Thursday at 4 o'clock of last week. So with that being said, I'm heading home tonight so I can stay happily married with my wife. And she supported me coming here and presenting, but I need to head back a few days early. And she's a rock star, but I'll be heading home tonight. So the reason I'm telling you all this, if you want to talk to me, don't think you'll find me later on in the week. Come find me right after this session. I'm on the red eye tonight back to Atlanta, then to Arkansas. So if you want to hook up and chat or whatever, find me right after this session because I'm flying out later on tonight. All right, so a little bit about Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola as a company, it's 131 years of refreshing consumers globally, 1.9 billion servings a day. Coke does about $42 billion in net revenue annually. We have 55 consecutive years of raising our dividend, about 3.5% yield now. 700,000 system employees. If you work for Coca-Cola or a bottling associate, can you raise your hand? I know there's a few folks in here, Nick, Susan, awesome. So 700,000 folks globally working for Coca-Cola, about 250 independent bottlers around the globe, 200 markets, 24 million customers, 500 brands. 21 of those brands are billion-dollar brands. Of those 21, 19 have a low or no-cal option, which is extremely important these days. And 12 of those billion-dollar brands are in the United States. One out of every $4 in non-alcoholic ready-to-drink beverages globally is spent on a Coca-Cola product. In the U.S., which is about 20% of our business or so, we have the number one share leader in sparkling soft drinks, the number one share leader in energy with our partnership with Monster, and the number one share leader in juice with our Minute Maid and Simply brands. Number 2 in water, and number 3 in coffee and tea. And a fun fact about Coca-Cola, behind the phrase okay, Coca-Cola is the second most recognized word in the world. So next to okay, Coca-Cola is probably the best way to speak English in any country in the world. And it works, I can tell you, in Africa especially. Walmart. Those of you from Walmart probably come up here and present this, but Walmart, just a quick overview of who they are, in case you don't know, the world's largest retailer. 4,600 stores in the U.S., about 1.5 million associates in the U.S., 260 million customers globally per week. They have about $486 billion in revenue, 44 consecutive years of raising their dividends, so also a good dividend aristocrat there. Under 12,000 stores, just roughly 12,000 stores almost in 28 countries. You know, as you guys have read in the news, and a big, huge buyback today in the news, recent acquisitions of Jet.com, of Bonobos, and ModCloth, and Moose Jaw, and many other pure-play e-commerce companies, as Walmart's really getting serious about taking on another unnamed retailer that works in the e-commerce space, who probably is here as well, and really increasing their online competitiveness, so really getting better in that. To wrap all this up, lots and lots and lots of data. Walmart has tons of data, and that's what kind of enabled this partnership today. And my colleague Chance, would have said there's a data revolution in merchandising going on, where the buyers are using data more than ever before to understand the customer and to make those decisions. And that data is what actually brought Chance, my business analytics partner, and I together in sharing this study we're going to share with you guys today. So, from an agenda standpoint, here's what we're going to cover today as a group. I'll share with you kind of my individual journey with Tableau, and really that's the Coke sales team and Northwest Arkansas's journey with Tableau. And my colleague Nick Carsons is here in the crowd as well. Any hard questions that you give me, I will immediately defer them to Nick because he will be able to answer them very quickly as I try to fumble through them. But Nick's my secret weapon on the team, who's a genius in Alteryx and everything Tableau and data management. But I'll kind of share with you kind of how we partnered together in our individual journey with Tableau and the Coke sales team in Arkansas for the past year. Then I'll share with you the Coke and Walmart case study of how we joined forces with Tableau as that unifying factor, leveraging the in-stock data that Walmart had and how we use that to kind of solve some of the problems and close that in-stock gap, leveraging our Coke bottling network. And after that, I'll pause for Q&A. So first, my personal experience in Tableau on our Coke Walmart sales team. And I really refer to this story as transforming organized chaos into, kind of refer around the office, Nick and I do, into, can you Tableau this for me? Tableau in our office has kind of become a verb like Google, like when you Google something. Now I walk around the office and people are like, can you Tableau this? And I'm like, what are you even talking about? Like, what do you need? They just know that if they start saying Tableau, then that makes them all of a sudden appear smart and in touch with their business intelligence trends. So I get like random Word documents, like, can you Tableau this? I'm like, this is a Word document. What are you even saying? But this is kind of how I refer to our Monday morning routine when I first came to Coke. Okay, who thinks they know where this is? Just start shouting it out. Shanghai? Ethiopia. Right on. How did you know it was Ethiopia? You've seen this before? Have you seen me before present this? You've been there. Meskel Square, Ethiopia. Right. So my other two sons, if you notice, they're also not white like me. They are from Ethiopia. Henry and Teddy are both from Ethiopia. This is Meskel Square, the busiest intersection in Ethiopia. And it's the busiest intersection in the entire country. It's the center of the nation's capital in Addis Ababa. You know, I've traveled to this intersection many, many times. Every time I feel I'm about to die. Every time. To those who live and drive in this intersection every day, you know, they're completely used to it. They see absolutely nothing wrong with it. It works. It gets the jobs done. Cars, buses, taxis, pedestrians, all going crisscrossing simultaneously, all directions at the same time. Look at this guy running across the street right here. You know, I don't know how he does it. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, surprised. Most of them do have iPhones. You know, they've never known any other way. And to the Ethiopians, it's almost a symbol of pride of how well this works. And ironically, I've been to Ethiopia 5 times now. Ironically, there's a light at this intersection now, and the light's like always out. And there's always like traffic cops there, like trying to. It's hilarious. They actually put a light up, but now they don't even use it. And so, as an outsider, you know, is anyone from Ethiopia in here? I know there's a few Tableau folks that are from Ethiopia. No, okay. As an outsider and someone who didn't grow up in Addis, you know, this intersection appears like inefficient, high risk, and really limiting like future growth and potential for that, you know, the country to have economic growth. So if we take an honest view, you know, I took an honest view. I'll go ahead and back up and then play that again while I finish talking. If we take an honest view of like our weekly routines and our typical sales team, as I came to Coke about 2 years ago, you know, regarding data analytics, I thought our process very much looked just like this intersection in Ethiopia. The situation was very manual. It was very time-consuming, very inefficient. It lacked consistency from week to week. It was hard for outsiders to understand. I mean, I felt like I really understood like sales analytics in the CPG industry. And it took me a good like 6 to 8 weeks of sitting through Monday morning meetings at Coke to even understand like what were we even talking about, because every sales lead presented their data for the week in a different format, in a different way, in a different process, in a different data set with a different email distribution list. And you know, everyone in the middle of the process knows of it as the way we've always done it. Sound familiar? Who in here? The way we've always done it? It's the way we've always done it? Yeah. But really, and because of that, they're almost somewhat proud of the organized chaos in the same way the Ethiopians that drive this every day see absolutely nothing wrong with it. And so that's what we were trying to do as I, you know, came into Coke and made some cross-functional friends. You saw in this video a bunch of blue cars going by, and that's a 1980s, give or take, Russian Lada taxi. Anyone ever lived and worked in Russia before? You guys seen these before? These taxis, the engine's been rebuilt 1 million times. They're held together with Bondo. They get in accidents, the bumper falls off, they tie it back on, they get going. You know, you've seen lots of these taxis in Ethiopia and in that intersection. They're tough, they're durable. These cars refuse to die. You know, like I said, the engine's been rebuilt 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Everyone in the country knows how to work on them, apparently. Like everyone's like a part-time mechanic, apparently. And they're very familiar with their performance and expectations, and it's what they know and what they've always done. And so as we seek to manage data more effectively and drive a higher level of influence, we're now in the process of trying to literally jump generations of technology from this Russian-made taxi to a self-driving autonomous electric-powered vehicle like a Tesla Model S. Is what I feel kind of like that business transformation that we're trying to do for BI at Coke, of taking things from the way it's always been done to moving to a modern BI platform. And building the first one takes, you know, a lot of time and a great deal of effort, but we have a grand vision of kind of where we want to go internally in our team, what we need to do, how we need to get there. Just like Elon Musk has a vision of how Tesla is going to change how we operate vehicles. That's what I really think kind of and many of you guys probably feel the same way. You're trying to literally jump decades of technology and implementing a BI platform, and that's what we're doing. And so I really think of this as like flipping the pyramid of business intelligence and really changing that paradigm. And Nick's boss, Jeff McClellan, has this whole 3I model. You know, Nick's boss, Jeff, is great for coming up with acronyms and funny sayings for lots of stuff. He's an Ohio State fan. Any other Buckeyes in here? OH. Yeah, all right, there you go. So in the current state, you know, this is the pyramid of how we used to do things, where you spent so much time on information management. And really your analysts weren't analysts, they were report pullers. And that's what they did. And they spent so much time there pulling data, creating reports, disseminating the information to key leaders. Very little time is actually spent on interpretation and influence. And, you know, less time is spent on influence and driving that strategic relationship. And so in the future state, in the next-gen business intelligence model, we're really trying to flip this pyramid and you think about how this represents where we spend our time, seeking to automate the information management stage by connecting data sources to the data lake, or at least automating those data pools. And if you want to talk data lake versus doing things internally, Nick and I can talk to you for an hour after this meeting off the record. But automating those data pools and really having members of our team, in the old model, we had about 7 or 8 folks that would spend 7 to 8 hours every weekend pooling data. Just be ready for a Monday morning meeting that was inefficient and actually, to be honest, not that productive. And now we're trying to automate that. And now it's, I talked to Nick last night. Now it's about Nick and maybe a half a person's time on Sunday, spending about 3 hours. And really that's at kickoff at 1 o'clock, and Nick kicks off the pool. And by the time the game wraps up, he's finalizing it, republishing it to the server, and everything is kind of off and running. And he just has his laptop open for a couple hours, while he's walking around his house. So it's not only just a huge capacity builder for your team, but it's really great for their work-life balance for your employees to keep them engaged and not ready to quit every week because they're just exhausted of working every Sunday, getting ready for Monday morning. And what we're really trying to do is free up our analysts to have more time to not be pulling reports, but more time actually interpreting that data, and even more time influencing with that data strategically. And that's what we really want to do. And that's when I think about modern BI, at least on a sales team, this is really kind of the model that we think about of how we want to change how we spend our time and change where we spend our effort. So as we transition from a BI system of organized chaos on the left that was highly manual, inconsistent, inefficient really, to a modern BI model that is focused on automation, shareability, interactive, and really focused on influencing information management. We've been able to focus more resources on the interpretation and influencing because we've enabled our analysts to spend less time on information management and pulling reports. So I mentioned kind of the weekly routine has gone from 7 people, about 15 hours a week, generating about 30 reports, to about 3 people, about 3 hours a week, really creating about, call it 5 or 6 or 7 standard reports now. Because when we look at those, 30 to 45 reports, really there was one of them, Nick, 6 or 7 reports were almost the exact same thing. It's just over 10 years, someone came in and said, well, I want this one. And the next person came in 2 years later and said, well, I want this one. And they were all off the same data source. They were just slightly different versions of the exact same thing. So it took some guts and some leadership to say, all right, let's all get in a room. Let's align to what we want. Is this what we need? Great. We're sunsetting all this other trash. This is now the one thing we're doing moving forward. And I know that's what you're used to having, but now this is what you're going to be used to having. And can we all hold hands and agree this is a better thing than what we had before, even though you may hate change and change is bad? Let's try to move forward and accept that. And it took a little bit of time, but we've had some success with that. And Nick just did this a few weeks ago, where we rolled out a report and had to do that hand-holding and literally said, we're sunsetting about 8 Excel reports. We're moving to 1 Tableau report. Everyone, minor freak out, minor panic attack. Now, 3 weeks later, Nick shared with me last night, he has 1,000 hits on that one report in 3 weeks. And he didn't, due to some server issues, couldn't get it up by 7 a.m. Monday morning. I already had 22 emails in his inbox by 7 a.m. from literally probably 25 people saying, where is it? Why don't you have it up yet? Where's our new report? Because that's how much they needed it and loved it and were using it to manage business. So it can be done. And I'm just going to share with you, in addition to kind of the anecdotal story I just share with you about Nick and the success he's had, I'll share with you kind of one story of something I led. So here's just one example of how we took how Tableau has taken a routine annual deliverable from corporate headquarters and enabled a quick customization into a dynamic interactive dashboard. So every year on the left, we get about 200 plus PowerPoint slides across 15 or so categories. They're performance trends, standard stuff, performance by manufacturer, by channel, by brand, by package, by flavor, typical sales stuff, category outlook. Multiply that times every category you play in, it quickly becomes 200 plus slides. And I looked at this and it wasn't customizable. I couldn't update it. By the time they had to get the thing done to roll it out to us at some big meeting, it was already a few months late. And by the time we actually have our meeting with the customer, it was already 6 to 7 months late. It's data for the entire nation, not data for the retailer that I called on. Now the retailer I call on is depending on who you are in the room. Whether you're Henkel, it's probably 30% of the nation. If it's Coke, it's probably 20% of the nation. But still, you're not customizing it for your retailer. And it's not interactive. You can't filter it. And how are you actually supposed to present 238 PowerPoint slides in a customer meeting? I mean, those of you guys that call on a customer, you can't roll them with a 238 PowerPoint slide deck and present that. So over the past 2 years, I've taken on this challenge, and I spent about 6 to 8 weeks customizing the data, working with Nielsen to refresh the blueberries, trying to make it Walmart specific. And I was like, okay, how am I going to present 238 PowerPoint slides? Well, maybe if I put them on big foam boards and I hang them from pipe and drape. Those of you from Bentonville, the 21C, I use Museum Gallery 1. I love that place. And, we have our meeting in there, and we go through, and I have this whole, hour and a half presentation where I present the category trends like I'm Vanna White, going through these gigantic foam boards. After that meeting, I take the foam boards to the agency. I tell them to take them back to their office and shred them because I can't use them ever again because I can't walk around with 8 foot by 8 foot foam boards in a meeting ever again and use that. So it's not really the best use of company time. It was a one and done deliverable. Took about 2 to 3 months end to end from a project management standpoint to basically pull off that annual kind of first JBP meeting where you talk about the shopper and macro trends and industry trends and category performance. So I sat back and I said, all right, I have Tableau, I love Tableau, I love data, I love bubble charts, and I love tree maps. How can I make this work? So I said, okay, well, in this data on the left in the PowerPoint slides, really all that is just, for those of you that understand Nielsen, it's a Nielsen pool by category with about 8 or 10 different characteristics. And if I pull that and make an individual category in each tab, and I link everything except the category and pull that in sequence, and I use Alteryx, with the help of Nick and a few other colleagues to kind of stack all those tables on top of each other, I can create that individual data set into one TDE. Then if I take that, I can bring that over into Tableau, and then I can customize it for any time period. All I have to do is refresh the Nielsen data set. If I want to take it from a Walmart data and I want to give it to the Publix team, I just have to take Walmart remaining market out, replace it with Publix remaining market, hit refresh, now the tool becomes a Publix tool. And so as I transition this entire process over, it really enabled us to create a dynamic tool with interactive filters that not only met the need for that meeting and enabled us to do a much more dynamic, interactive meeting where now I can go into the meeting and kind of have an agenda of what I want to show, but really I can go where the customer wants to go. And I'll let them drive the meeting. And I can use these tree maps at the top to interactively filter down and click on a category, then click on the parameter of package, and then filter it to just manufacturer Coke, and just show Coke's performance by package in Walmart versus Walmart remaining market, and then show the opportunity analysis on the right of Walmart getting their fair share of that package, and then show the opportunity analysis even more in that second column on the right of them growing at the same rate as remaining market, and then quantifying the opportunity by package, by brand, by category, by manufacturer with that parameter all in one view. So literally taking 200 plus PowerPoint slides and putting it into a much more dynamic view that even has a quick opportunity analysis, and then creating a tree map here where it has all the same data, manufacturer, category, brand, package, flavor, all here in a tree map that's an interactive filter. And so this has been a fantastic tool that now I can update this every month or so. And whether it's a huge joint business planning meeting that's very strategic, where you want to talk about where the category is going and trends, or if you're just going to do a store walk with a merchant, you can go through here, filter this to Coke, filter it to sparkling. It's a tree map, do a quick screenshot, print that out, and now you're walking the aisle with your retailer, and they say, hey, not even having the Tableau mobile app, just literally having the screenshot of the sheet, and any questions you get on, hey, what % of your sales are in 6-pack half liter, and how's that performance been past 52 weeks in sales growth, or what share of your business is in lemon lime flavored soda. All that information is here on this dashboard right here, and it's all manufacturer data, and it's completely shareable because it's Nielsen data for Walmart market. And so that's just one example I wanted to share with you guys on with our individual Coke journey of how we've taken some of this data and taken static deliverables from headquarters, transitioned them into Tableau, and then started to scale that from our Walmart team to other sales teams as well, so they can use it as well. And this process has really been recognized by our customer as well, the Walmart merchant team. Here's a quote from Zach Simpson. He's a former VP of beverages at Walmart. And he said, the leadership of the Coke advisory team has been the critical element of delivering this acceleration in thought leadership, data utilization, and modular precision. And he was referencing our category advisory team and what they shared with some precision assortment work with Walmart. And so we're not only transforming how we operate internally within Coke, we're also transforming how we appear to our key customer as well, and leveraging Tableau to present those insights externally. We've started to integrate Tableau into many of our sales calls with Walmart, like that last example I just shared. And so here's kind of the first key takeaway, at least Doug's key takeaways that I believe as you think about Tableau. access to data is no longer a competitive advantage. I'm going to say that again. Access to data is no longer a competitive advantage, in my opinion. I think we all have the same Nielsen data. Everyone who works at Walmart has the same retailing point of sale data. We all have some form of panel data, whether that's Nielsen, IRI, InfoScout, something, or even your proprietary custom panel. We all, the playing field is actually pretty level when it comes to data access. However, how someone uses the data to influence via analytics and data visualization is the competitive advantage. And Tableau is really that enabler that's given us that competitive advantage in developing a strategic relationship with our customer. So in my opinion, I don't think access to data really is a competitive advantage at all, because pretty much there's parity in data access, but how you use it and how you visualize it, and that's what Zach was referring to here to our category advisory team, that's where the competitive advantage comes in. That's where the strategic relationship comes, and that's where you develop strong relationships with as a sales team with merchants. And Tableau has been that enabling factor that's enabled us to demonstrate that competitive advantage in that space. All right, now, so transitioning to the case study on in-stocks. Again, those of you who joined me late, this was supposed to be a joint presentation with Walmart, but my Walmart colleague in the beverage business analytics space had to cancel just a few weeks ago. So I'm going to share a few things kind of from his perspective in the most unbiased, objective way I can, and kind of sharing what he intended to share from just a process standpoint. And I'll share much more kind of my perspective of how we leverage the data and do my best to kind of share that story. So this is Sam Walton, really known as Mr. Sam around Bentonville. And he opened his 5 and dime store, which you see in the background there, in the Bentonville Square in around 1950. The first Walmart in Rogers, Arkansas opened in 62. Walmart went public in 70. But Mr. Sam always was committed to understanding and serving the customer so they could save money and live better. If you ever visit Northwest Arkansas, I highly recommend you go to the downtown Bentonville Square and visit the Walmart Museum. It's free. You can do it in 5 minutes. You can do it in an hour. But it really sets a strong foundation on Mr. Sam, his values, his character, his morals, and how he instilled that in his Walmart associates and how Walmart expanded globally, and just the vast global expansion, how quickly it took place, especially through the 80s and 90s. That's a really good exhibit. So Walmart to this day is very aware of that reality, of this quote that there's only one boss, the customer, and he can fire everybody in the company, from the chairman on down, simply by spending his money somewhere else. And Walmart to this day is very aware of that reality. They spend a lot of energy and data understanding customer behavior. But one problem Walmart really sought to understand that we couldn't quite get a grip on was out of stocks and how they impacted lost dollar sales. So every retailer in the room struggles with out of stocks, especially in the beverage space. But Walmart took a very proactive approach to quantifying that impact so they could hold their suppliers, like Coca-Cola, accountable for those lost dollar sales. However, they needed suppliers like us, like Coca-Cola, to actually solve the problem, and Tableau is that bridge that brought us together, and the identification of the problem, which was Walmart. They were using their algorithm to identify the problem, and they actually were the ones creating the data. But then in order to implement the solution, they needed us in order to do that. And so that joint relationship between Coke and Walmart with this in-stock data is the case study I want to share with you today. So beverages, out of stocks in beverages are about a $1.5 billion opportunity in lost dollar sales. Let's let that sink in. $1.5 billion in lost dollar sales in beverages this is like total North America retail, if we kind of extrapolate the size of prize there. So it's a huge opportunity. Anybody from Houston, the Gulf Coast, Florida, been home the past few weeks? Yeah, your water shelf probably looks like this, a lot recently. But, unfortunately, to be honest, this could probably be any local Walmart's shelf on any given Sunday afternoon. And Walmart realized that. We realized that we were having some pretty systemic out-of-stock issues in beverages and across the entire store, but really specifically in beverages as well. These beverage items are high churn. The holding capacity at shelf is really low. Because we're a DSD system, we're in the store every day. They keep the days of supply, at 1 to 2. And I've worked in hair care and Henkel. Days of supply for hair care is like 35, 45 days of supply. Laundry detergent is probably 15, 20 days of supply on shelf sometimes. Beverages, it's like 1 to 2 days of supply on shelf. So literally, if you don't touch the shelf for about 18 hours, shelf is empty. And that's why we're constantly delivering, constantly merchandising the shelf. So the question was, can Tableau help identify and solve the in-stock problem in Walmart? In short, the answer is yes. So Walmart developed a proprietary algorithm to identify these lost dollars as opportunities based upon historical run rates and just sales performance with sister stores. I won't share much more because the algorithm is proprietary. It's in a black box. I don't know what it is. All I know is I'm thankful to get the data so I can activate it and share it. but basically it's their algorithm that they use to identify lost dollar sales. So if you think about this, there's about 4,600 Walmarts in the US. They're creating a lost dollar sales metric in every store, on every item. Average supercenter is around 180,000 square feet, about 140,000 items in the store. That's 15 billion, and they create an out-of-stock number about a couple times a day. That's 15 billion rows of data a week in this in-stock data that they're creating. So in other words, that's a lot of data. So understanding this data was really critical to identifying the out-of-stock opportunity and implementing solutions to solve the problem. This is where Tableau comes in as that unifying factor in helping both Walmart and Coke solve this problem together. So first, Walmart started collecting the data, total chain level, reporting this from performance dashboard by beverage company, and I put some great boxes over there to protect the innocent, so you don't actually see the data. But this is, general view, this is kind of like their dashboard and how they were looking at what they were sharing with their leadership. Leveraging, pulling the data down from Teradata in Alteryx, pushing it to Tableau, publishing on Tableau server, and my colleague Chance was sharing this with his merchant leadership team. And so leveraging Tableau server, no Tableau license required because he's pushing out via Tableau server, no Tableau experience required because the dashboards are pretty intuitive, and if you have any experience in Excel pivot tables, you can figure out how to use these filters and filter down to your, if you're a merchant, to your category or to your department. Curated data based upon the merchant's buying responsibility, no middleman, no waiting, best-in-class self-service analytics for his buying team. But his Walmart leadership understood that the relative performance of each beverage company, brand, regions, divisions, stores, you see the map on there, all that stuff, but still one big problem still existed. Just knowing the in-stock performance is one vital piece of information, but the key question still remains on how to solve the problem, identifying root cause drivers or actually implementing the solutions. And it's just Chance and his merchant team having this data to themselves in Bentonville didn't do anybody any good, except they could just scorecard us and then send us an email on Monday morning and beat us over the head with it and say, your out of stocks are worst in class. What are you going to do about it? And I'm like, I don't know. Where are they? I need to have the data to be able to actually go solve the problem. And so just telling us our score, we didn't really do anything. That's what they kind of started off doing, just sending us either screenshots of this or just sending us an Excel file of where we stood, or it didn't really help. So we didn't know how to actually solve the problem. So then they started leaning forward, and Walmart took really a giant leap in being transparent, started sharing this data weekly with beverage companies like Coca-Cola. And so I know Chance would have said this, and I'm going to say it right here because I want to make sure this is clearly understood. Coca-Cola did not receive any favorable treatment in getting this data or access to the data, and Walmart and Chance really made to stress that point. This data was, and these are just 5 example companies, probably the 5 biggest companies that Chance worked with here that are DSD suppliers. But every company had access to the data if they wanted it. It just happened to be that we were able to receive the data because we were working with Tableau. We also have a joint partnership with Box, and that enabled us to actually receive the data. So the first data sharing that took place, which is the top line, scorecard, percent in stock, we get that. And I said, hey, can you give me a week of, I just got Tableau training. Can you give me a week of data in Excel? It was a 300 megabyte Excel file, 1 week of data, 1 row for every item, for every store, hundreds of thousands of rows. Almost crashed Excel just trying to open it. I put that into a Tableau workbook, created a quick Tableau dashboard, shared a few insights back already, and I was like, all right, I think we're hunting now. I was like, can you give me 13 weeks of data? That's too big for Excel, but can you give it to me in a TDE? And my Walmart colleague was like, great, I'll run it in Alteryx, I'll send you via Box a TDE. And I was like, okay, now I have 13 weeks of data. What if I give you our master store list, which has our merchandising frequency and our delivery frequency and all of the data we have at every store and how we service that store? Could you join that at the store level in your Alteryx data feed workflow, put that as a TDE, and give that back to me? And so then we started getting that 13-week TDE, and that's what really enabled us to kind of activate this data at a much higher level than our competitors, not because of any relationship, which the relationship was very strong, but they would have done that with anyone had they asked. But the big thing is we were able to do it because we were both leveraging Box, both leveraging Alteryx, and we're really both using Tableau, so we were able to get that data, to assess it, to develop those insights. So 3 key themes that Chance would have shared here is that sharing the data to enable others. Sometimes you have the data in one organization, but you really need to give it to another one with a high level of trust in order to solve that problem. And I feel this is a common problem in most organizations where one group has the data, but they really can't solve the problem. They need to give it to another group, but there has to be that trust in order for them to give that to them, and they have to really send it over. The second point here was Alteryx, Box, and TDE. So the combination of the joint partnerships of us both using all three of these companies that have corporate partnerships with them really enabled us to process lots of information and strengthen that relationship. Where now I get the 13-week TDE every week, download it from the box folder, swap out the data source in the Tableau workbook, hit republish or save, republishes to our server. It's good to go basically within 10 minutes of getting the data as fast as I can get it downloaded, and everything's already out there for our sales team to leverage. And the third point that Chance was going to make was building relationships with suppliers, teaching, and partnering. And so this sharing was a joint learning process as we were both kind of flexing new muscles and analyzing the data together, sharing best practices. And one of the points I want to stress here is maintaining our own IP of the dashboards. So Walmart had the data, and we had the data. We both had the exact same data. Going back again to that competitive advantage, we both had the exact same data. But he created his dashboard for his beverage leadership team, and I created my dashboard to share with our bottling partners. I didn't have to share my dashboard with Pepsi and Dr. Pepper and Frito and Mondelez and all those guys because it was our IP. So the data was able to transfer across multiple competitors and competing interests, yet we were all using the same data, but how we visualized it and how we accessed it and did the insights, that's where the competitive advantage came in, and through Tableau increased our competitive advantage because we were able to get more data on a more frequent basis. So prior to, and now that he was sharing this data with us, we were able to start, and bringing in that master store list that we had, we were able to start diagnosing the in-stock problem. So instead of just telling us we had 1%, we were able to start doing root cause analysis, looking at DSD service, whether that be our delivery frequency or our merch frequency or delivery timing, looking at the impact of space, days of supply, historical display space, when you have a display when items on a rollback. And finally, the third thing was order accuracy, understanding computer-assisted ordering, backroom inventory efficiency, order timing, all of those things before when all they would give us is a top-line number, even a top-line number by store, by item. We couldn't do much with that. But once we were able to integrate in, apparently, that unrelated data set into that TDE, we could start gaining lots of insights and start solving problems from the top down at a total chain level and from the bottom up, kind of attacking low-hanging fruit at a store-by-store level, really identifying some of those problems. So the first time ever, we were able to identify and quantify the impact of those kind of three root causes on in-stocks of DSD service, space, and order accuracy. And so with that, again, just like Walmart holding the data to themselves doesn't really help solve the problem, us in Arkansas holding the data to ourselves and the Coke sales team, again, doesn't solve the problem. We need to get the data out to our DSD bottling system in order for them to be able to get in stores and actually close these lost dollar sales gaps. So quick lesson on like DSD versus warehouse. In a warehouse system like my former employer, Procter & Gamble, you make the product in your facility, you ship it to a DC, that DC ships it to a Walmart DC, shows up in a Walmart truck in the back of a Walmart, probably once a week. A Walmart employee takes it from the back room, off the truck, straight to the floor, stocks it. If it's full, they take it to the back room and they bin it. So it's all basically Walmart employees touching it. In a DSD or direct store delivery system, it's from a Coke bottling facility, goes on a Coke truck with a Coke driver, goes to the back door, drops it off. Then later on that day, a Coke merchandiser comes in, pulls it from the back room, and stocks it as many as like 2 to 3 times a day that Coke merchandiser is in the store. So the people we need to get the data to, the people we need to influence aren't Walmart employees, it's Coke employees. Folks like Susan's team and the Heartland bottler they're working with. So that's where the difference is, and them having the data, they couldn't solve the problem. They needed to give it to us, and then we needed to give it to others. So that's where Tableau Server really came in. So we have a Tableau Server instance on our team. We have about 250 plus bottler associates are on our Tableau Server. It's folder-based permissions, so whether you're on the category advisory team and you're firewalled because you have multiple category access, or you're on the sales team and you can only see your data, we have that clearly based upon user-based permissions in the firewall. We have our bottler associates, or external associates that work with us in there. User groups by function, created folder-based permissions by function. So Tableau Server really enables us to kind of share this data and also do analytics by usage, by user, by view to understand who's using it, how are they using it, and when are they using it as well, and enables them to use it across a variety of devices. So without Tableau Server, we'd have had no way to actually disseminate this information broadly in real time to get it out to folks. And even if I could receive the data in Excel from Walmart, I had no way to actually share it broadly with our team. And now the default views and subscriptions in Tableau Server, bottlers are able to set their dashboard, open to a specific bottler territory, and eliminating even more unnecessary filtering. And they can get out and send this information out to their merchandising teams and to their sales folks, and they can attack that low-hanging fruit real time. So here's just a quick example. I chose not to try to test fate and do a demo on the hotel internet with a dashboard. So here's 4 screenshots of the OSCA dashboard that we created. I'll just give you a quick overview of kind of what we're looking at. On the top left, this is just the last 13-week trend where the bar chart's lost dollar sales. The orange line is the in-stock percentage, and filters here by product, by brand, by category, by Walmart region, all sorts of geographic and product and category filters on the left, and then some key headlines across the top on lost dollar sales, in-stock percentage, and an annualized size of price, so you can kind of track that progress over time. This is kind of just a top-line overview that we created, just to open it up, where you start, understand how you're trending. Then on the item level deep dive, parameters by category, subcategory, department, subcategory, group, and item, color coding by category type, and then also color coding here on red, yellow, green on your in-stock percentage, where you could kind of identify, at least from the top down, we started to see some trends where we have 2 or 3 or 4 items that are routine in-stock issues annually across the business. Whereas before, we'd have never known that. We'd always think our merchants are in the store 2 to 3 times a day. They're the merchandisers. They're stocking the shelves, setting up displays. Everything looks perfect. All the internal reporting we get appears perfect on our in-stock rates. Our on-inventory levels are high. But once we started looking at this, we started to see a handful of brands are routine systemic in-stock offenders, and they're routinely out of stock, and we need to really increase our performance on keeping those in stock. And this enabled, even though that merchandiser's in the store, when they're out of store, we're having lost dollar sales take place on those items, and this helped identify some of those from a top-down at a chain level, and also if you filtered an individual store or a DC or a region, see some of those themes as well. This, using some of the map here, so a tree map filter by, based upon this parameter, by whether it's bottler or Coke Field AE or Walmart region, division, market, and then a map by store with, again, a color code of red, yellow, green based upon that in-stock percentage of where that scores, and then a store list here on what that in-stock percentage is and also lost dollar sales. So this is one specific bottler who's probably in the room, their territory, so I won't call them out. But if you look at this map, you can quickly see that, actually, if I can zoom in. If you look at this map, you can quickly see that there's one region that's like routinely a problem. Where is Zoom? Help me out here. You guys can see this. There we go, one more. And yeah. So if you look at this map of kind of the mid-Atlantic area, I'm like, something's going on right here in this DC, Maryland, Virginia, tri-state area. And before, you would just look at that total bottler score, you would be like, oh, they're at 94.5%, and they have $3 million of lost dollar sales the last 13 weeks, and that were stores in DC, and then, Alexandria and Bowie and on down. But then you look at a map view, you can quickly see, okay, something's going on in this region right here. Like, what is going on at that DC? What's going on with that merchandising team, that leadership there? Has there been a high turnover of people? What's going on? So it's not always necessarily driven by products or driven by anything you're doing. It might be driven by the people you actually have working in a region and just maybe some poor leadership, or in this case, these stores just transitioned from the Coke-owned bottler to this bottling facility, and they were in a leadership transition. And that leadership transition was rough, and it was impacting our in-stock rates in the store, and we knew that, and then we started to say, okay, what can we do to fix that? And then the bottom right one is by DC, distribution center for each of the bottlers, so that really gives them a good view of understanding where those opportunities are, kind of at a group of stores rather than individual stores. So I'll wrap up with this, and we'll stop for questions. As we think about the results of this in-stock case study, in the first 13 weeks of activating this data within our Coke system, we closed $20 million in lost dollar sales. So how many of you guys here in CPG industry would like to find $20 million under a couch cushion? That's like a new initiative launch. It's like a new tier 1 initiative when you think about $20 million for most of the companies here, even big companies like ourselves. So that's what, in the first 13 weeks of getting this data out to our bottlers, our in-stock score went up effectively $20 million of lost dollar sales closed. We have, I mentioned about 250 plus bottler associates on our Tableau server now, accessing it, pulling it down, sharing it out with their teams. We're trying to do a pilot to actually push it to our merchandisers' handhelds, so they have that, and there's no more of relying on our bottlers to kind of disseminate that information within their organizations. To date, I thought this was a good stat until Nick shared with me his 1,000 pulls in 3 weeks. But, in probably, 9 or so months when I created this presentation, we had 10,000 pulls on this dashboard year to date. So it's, a lot of usage, getting good pull from our teams and our bottlers, and they're using it. And now they have real-time access to the store SKU level data on a weekly basis to solve this problem. So in summary, you'll find that one organization has access to the data, but really you need another organization to analyze it, diagnose the problem, and implement the solutions. And this sharing of the data requires trust and transparency, but it can be done even while maintaining the intellectual property of the data visualizations of the same data set, as I shared with you in the case of Walmart and Coke using the same data, but having their own IP of their same dashboards. In our case study, Walmart had lots of data on these lost dollar sales, but really didn't have the underlying data on the root causes, nor the ability to share it with the people that could actually solve the problem, like the Coke bottling network. But by sharing the data with us and all their other DSD suppliers, we were able to work together, leverage Tableau as that unifying factor to solve that problem, share those insights back and forth, and also share those insights with our field sales team and our bottlers to actually solve the problem and help the product stay on shelf so the customer can actually find it. And that's how Tableau played the unifying factor and really helped strengthen our strategic relationship. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I'd love to pause here for Q&A for our remaining 10 to 15 minutes. Thank you. All right, I got a mic up here. Any Q&A, any questions you guys have? Test, test. All right, go ahead.
So I know you were mentioning how between Coke and Walmart you shared via .TDEs, but is there opportunity for Walmart to set up a server environment or a cloud instance and actually share a Tableau site with you? Is that something you guys have discussed?
That's something from an IT security standpoint we've chosen not to do. I can't remember, you guys could probably comment on this for your Walmart folks went. I think both from an internal IT standpoint, like our Tableau server set up on our own Active Directory firewall. So I have actually tried to add Walmart buyers to our server, and it is such a hassle with our internal IT, getting them set up and getting password set up, and they're trying to access, and they forget their password. It takes me 3 months to find someone to reset it, and so it's been a struggle. So instead, what we choose to do really is just kind of share the raw data back and forth via Box, and then build our own dashboards and share them with our own people on our own Tableau servers, rather than trying to do a cross-Tableau server user relationship. That's been something that just seemed like a political, bureaucratic IT battle that wasn't worth fighting, to be honest.
We're going through that. Our customers are Kellogg's, Unilever, Butterball, Chobani, so they've all asked us to do that.
Yeah.
We're new Tableau customers, so I like that it's an IT security issue, so we can maybe tell them that's why.
And then you can maintain your IP of your own dashboards. Like, you don't have people going on your server, and then you have to make sure you have it where they can't download the dashboard, but then they can basically see everything that you create. So instead, if you just share, in my opinion, puts the onus on companies like myself to actually have the intellectual capital to even create the dashboards. But if you can just share the data and then let each company analyze it and to build their own dashboards and disseminate it their own way, then it takes that, IT firewall conversation out of the picture.
Absolutely.
So it makes it a little bit easier. It creates more work, but it makes it easier and eliminates that. So, good question. Anything else? Anybody else? In the back?
So I like what you've done. We're in the CPG 3-tier system also. Have you looked at bringing in your bottler or warehouse inventory to look at your out-of-stocks back in the supply chain?
Yes. Yeah, we're doing that as well right now with the, I think Walmart calls it OTIF data. But yeah, we're doing the same thing. That could have been the same presentation, but from a warehouse standpoint as well.
Yeah, because that's the opportunity we've seen. We can find it at the store, but then we have to go back to our distributor and see if our distributor had the inventory, and then back in the supply chain to see root cause of it all.
Same problem, just one more middleman, basically, in how you think about it. Yeah. So yeah, we've also created a dashboard for our warehouse inventory issues to try to solve the same thing. It looks similar to this one. Yep. Any other questions on anything else? Yes, up front. I'm gonna go right here, then on the way up.
Are the DCs for Coca-Cola owned by Coca-Cola? As in, I guess my question would be, are there any integration issues throughout the supply chain for you guys before you even get to Walmart?
That's a great question. Actually, at the end of this year, Coke will actually own 0% of their bottling network. So we are what's called refranchising. We used to own a lot of our bottling network. I don't know if Pepsi's in the room. I think Pepsi's doing the exact opposite, where they're centralizing their bottling network. We're actually selling it all out to our independent bottlers. So at the end of this year, we will own no bottlers whatsoever. With that being said, we have a strong relationship, and through, I mentioned kind of the IT firewall, they're within our Active Directory. So they have a separate user ID. I can add them to our Tableau server because we have other websites and SharePoints, if you will, that they access. So with that user ID, that also fits within our Coke firewall. I can add them to our Tableau server, so they're not a part of Coke, but technically they kind of are a part of Coke from an IT standpoint, so that makes it easy to add them. Yeah. Who was up here? Yes.
First of all, that was a
Pepsi.
great.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, great presentation.
Thanks.
It's always a challenge getting so much massive data
Yeah.
and then doing something actionable with it. So I guess my question is, and if you didn't want to answer, it's fine.
That's fine.
It looks like your dashboard really pinpoints which location is out of stocking on certain brands.
Mm-hmm.
Are you making suggestions to that bottler, certain actions that you will recommend, or is this purely identifier for location that needs to kind of tighten up their actions?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've tried to develop, you guys know DSD. So you have an item that's is out of stock, then you're trying to figure out, okay, why is that? Really, the bottler is the one who's the expert, and the merchandiser in that store is the one that's the expert to figure out this item's constantly out of stock. Leveraging the data that we have, how can we understand why it's out of stock? So I mentioned service, I mentioned space, I mentioned order accuracy. We've kind of done a few things in Tableau to help identify that, but really put the onus upon them and the merchandisers and the folks in the store to say, what's actually causing that? And in some cases, we've changed each of those three things. We try to improve our order accuracy, improve some of our space where we feel if we're getting huge out of stocks, and if you know this algorithm, it has huge issues in how it creates lost dollar sales, but they're really not there, so that's due to space changes versus sister stores. And also what we can control as a bottler, and that's one of the big things we did with Walmart when we got this data is I said, we promise not to point our finger at you. We promise when we get this data not to go to you and say, we don't have enough space. That's not why we're having these out-of-stock issues. We will first do everything we can to assess how we're the problem, and if we feel we're not the problem, then we'll tell you. But in reality, we're always going to never exhaust the fact that we're the problem. And with that, you guys know DSD, merge frequency, delivery frequency, order accuracy, delivery, all those things. How can we improve that to make sure those out-of-stock problems don't exist? And that's where we try to bring that data in and solve the problem. Just DSD 101, but actually having the data to understand what you can improve. Yeah. Yes. Thanks.
Great presentation. We are a supplier of produce for Walmart, and I don't have access to Walmart's data, but I've looked at our own data. I'm wondering on your mapping functionality, have you only used the OpenStreetMaps default mapping source within Tableau, or have you brought in other sources of mapping data? Because I have a lot of problems getting to match up where store locations and DCs are at.
Internally, we have a latitude and longitude attached to every single store that we maintain in our own store file. And I forget how we got that to begin with, but through Retail Link, the latitude and longitude. Yeah, so we use Lat and Long, and that's accurate.
You got it through Retail Link?
Yeah, I forget if we got the Retail Link or we took it from Retail Link and then ran a program that basically turned an address into a latitude and longitude, and then we imported that into our master store file. So then you're not relying on some other Tableau to leverage an address to plot it correctly.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Well, yes, good.
So I actually work on a university campus, and
Okay.
we do a lot of predictability models for our retail and dining locations. We, sell all of these products.
Mm-hmm.
We have a fixed market. Do you use a lot of weight factors, such as using the Google API for weather to determine your predictability of stock and how much would move off the shelves?
This is our first, good question. This is our first summer of getting the in-stock data and going through a high, summer seasonality of beverages. as we entered the summer, I was like, wow, our in-stock numbers are really going down. So we haven't used weather from a predictability standpoint, but we're starting to, as we see the data and actually getting a full year of data and getting a historical view of the data, understanding how weather sees it and the repeating your rollbacks and repeating your display space. And anyone who works at Walmart know their cases on display is probably down versus last year, no matter what company you work for. So we're seeing how that starts to impact each of these things. So I haven't implemented it from a predictability standpoint, but are looking at that from an impact standpoint from a seasonal period time to time. I had one in the back real quick before you, sir. I want to get him before, I know we're getting close to time. Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. Quick question. So this data set, Nielsen, IRI, or even spins for that matter, are really complicated and gets sometimes tricky with the different levels of calculations. You mentioned Alteryx plus Tableau is what you guys are using. So is it the solution, or is it one of the solutions or tools set which you are using for such data, or do you see any limitations in Tableau plus Alteryx only for such kind of information?
I'm sorry, you said Tableau plus what? What was the last part you said?
Alteryx.
From Alteryx? Okay, yeah, we just use Alteryx from a data management and creating the TDE, just joining in multiple files, Excel files that we have, like that master store list, to their OSCA data or in-stock data, and that's it. That's how we're using Alteryx in this case and how we're managing it. So, was there a question up here? Yes, sir.
Thanks. I was just curious. I mean, you talked about one example here, which is out-of-stock data and how you're trying to optimize, the supply chain to avoid those situations. And I mean, from your perspective, is this just the start? I mean, how many more such use cases are there, and how do you measure? I mean, here you could talk about incremental sales, and then what do you think is the untapped potential over the next several years as you do more?
Yeah, Nick's laughing over here because he's probably going to be the one presenting next year with what he's doing. This is one Tableau workbook that we've created that, was kind of the first real success story, and the reason all the Tableau folks love this so much is because we were able to identify a dollar amount to the ROI of creating it in such a short period of time, and not even getting into being able to quantify the value of all of the, DSD kind of supply chain initiatives that we're implementing, now leveraging this data to quantify that. So this one workbook has given us, I mentioned that $20 million number, but it's given us much more than that in quantifying ROI of things we've been able to implement, because you're able to see the direct impact it has on in-stocks right away. There's many other dashboards we're creating across our entire, anyone here works in a retail sales organization knows all the reports you guys create on a regular basis. We're working to, we're transitioning all of those over into Tableau, sharing all those in our Tableau server. And right now, a lot of the ROI is in capacity, effectiveness, people's work-life balance from a report generation standpoint. But this is probably the one that's had the most immediate sales impact attached to it directly of all the stuff that we've done, which has been kind of the great success of why we're sharing this example and not some other story. But everything we have from a sales routine, performance management standpoint is or has been transitioned into Tableau at this point. So, yes.
First of all, great presentation.
Thanks.
Had a question for you around the pyramid that you presented at the
Yes.
beginning. So you started to flip this structure. What's been the impact to your team based on the changes in this new joint partnership that you have, and how big is that team that's now supporting this new way of thinking?
Nick, do you want to answer that from the impact on the people?
I would say that what it does is that
Can you give them the mic? Can you use the mic just to here?
usually I project on my own, but what I would say is that the vision we had, especially when I came on about a year ago, is analysts were kind of report drivers, 4 days out of the week, or whatever it is, and they're just turning and burning reports. And that's not really the function of an analyst. Really, that's beyond that. And in my opinion, there's reporting and there's analytics, and in many ways they should be kept separate. So what this has done is, by freeing up all this time from using Tableau as well as Alteryx, is to have these silos of data where we can hit them and have a standardized view of the truth, and we don't have separate analysts running kind of rogue operations and where'd you get this number, I got this different number, all this kind of conversations that go on. And so what it does is that, maybe they have their Monday morning routine and that's it. And now the next 4.5 days of let's find another 20, 30, $40 million idea and let's go try it out, as opposed to spending time doing high lift, low kind of effectiveness of reports. So now it's let's do APT stuff, let's do some test learn stuff, let's start doing predictive analytics, let's start doing some other things that we need to be doing as a massive revenue generator for Coca-Cola, as opposed to just burning reports.
Yeah, and I'd say the other key lesson from this, just hopefully a point of encouragement, is that I'm a shopper insights person. That's what I love about Tableau. I am not an analyst, I am not IT. I'm supposed to be doing qualitative and quantitative research on shopper behavior. And I've been able to kind of informally lead this for our team. Nick's, has the word analyst kind of in his title, I think, maybe. But he's kind of like the lead person.
I have something, I'm not
yeah,
sure what
something
it is.
like that, whatever we make it up. But we're 5 or 6 people that aren't in BI, aren't in IT, and we're all doing things, the old way, and kind of all decided to hold hands. None of us report to each other. We all decided to kind of hold hands and say, let's work together because this is for the better of our own work-life balance, it's for the better of the company, and for the better of our competitive advantage of these guys here in blue. So that's what we're trying to do, just work together. This is not some top-down organizational structure where someone said, you have to do this. It literally started off with me knocking on doors at the 13th floor in Atlanta saying, who can help me? I need something, which then led to a Tableau relationship, led to 15 desktop licenses, led to Interworks training, led to a server, and led to us kind of talking here today just a year ago. So I think you can do it from a groundswell of just effort among folks that want to make a difference and change, even though they're not being told to do it. So. Any other questions? Great, thank you. Oh, one more. We can talk afterwards. Is that cool? Thanks for your time. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.